close enough that you can see
I
me?
think so. I think we're good. I might be able to you can zoom on this thing a little bit. No, it's good enough right now.
Now we're in there.
we're both in there.
You can see my bald dome there. We're good.
Yeah. Jamie Shirley, John Taylor, going over a coaching conversation for professional development plan. And we're just going to dive right into it. With what we've been doing and kind of talking about during our past conversations and even in our teacher leadership meetings that we have in the morning, working on doing more observations in the classroom and also developing that role of yours, moving more from the teacher role into the lead teacher role, where you're doing more of the mentoring and doing some of the observations within the classroom. And we've been talking about that, and we're just kind of making sure that our goals are on pace and seeing what we can do to work together to make those things happen. So we're just going to run through a few things. What have been some of your goals moving into from the teacher role into the lead teacher role?
Well, one of the things that I personally have desired to see us do outside of when I was just doing it because it's kind of who I am, how I'm wired as a person, is trying to help the teachers that come in, whether they're experienced teachers or new teachers, which we get a lot of, be able to figure out how to achieve longevity. By longevity here, I mean 5 years or more, because we have a lot of young teachers that come in, have good skills, good young teachers that in that too small a time frame to help build our overall long-term staff culture move on for whatever the reason is. And I would like to be able to help more directly rather than kind of, because before it's just who I am.
Well, and you've been one of those teachers here that have been here for a long time, that have longevity.
Correct.
So being able to take that experience
and help them figure out how they can apply, not saying that they have to do what I've done or be me, but there are certain aspects of surviving in any teaching place, not just here, but any place, that young teachers can probably more quickly begin to put into their regime of what they do to help achieve that long-term status, especially here because of the fact that we do go year-round, because we have a certain number of different expectations to do what we do here than would be done in a public system. And so there is a distinct, I want to say there's a distinct ability to keep those things together and not go stir crazy or burn out.
Yeah.
And I've been really, early on in my time here, had some older teachers that helped me take a look at some stuff too. And I think it's just natural that that's part of what we do.
Yeah. Okay. So far, like what you've, through the process, obviously through some of the observations of me coming into the classes, and then on top of that, with us doing our leadership meetings in the mornings and getting involved with more things in that nature, what would you say you've learned through this process of those observations and conversations that we've been having?
Well, some of the stuff that I've learned, actually I think was, I don't want to say accidental, but the day that we talked with the instructional coaches from WG that stopped in, that was encouraging to hear an outside school system come in and watch us do what we do here, some of our younger teachers, and them being encouraged that even though it's difficult, different row to hoe that we're doing, that those young folks are, even with the small amount of time that they have. And I think that was one of the things that, you know, I knew that our instructional time, actual instructional time, is considerably encroached upon. We talk about it frequently, all the things that our kids have going on to accomplish what we do here, plus behaviors, plus this, plus that. I think that what I took away from that was, even though the time that we actually have for instruction is smaller than we might like it to be sometimes, maybe most of the time, that as a staff, when they observe those young folks, that they were making the most of that time. And I think that that's one of the things that I've talked to a lot of young teachers, and even teachers that have taught elsewhere and come in here. They're like, man, the actual instructional time is so dang small. I thought, I get that, but you got to make the absolute most out of whatever number of minutes it is that you get a day.
Yeah.
If it's 40 minutes a day and you have a stupendous day and you get nearly the whole class period, awesome. If it's 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and you can really make that 10 minutes count, then good to go. I think that was encouraging and eye-opening to know that that's happening in other places around, you know, the academy. Young folks that on occasion I hear that are a little frustrated because of that exact thing, but when an outside system observes them, even though they feel that way, the observation is you're still making the most of
The time
that amount of time.
Yeah. And with that, you know, we got good things. What are some of the things that you would say are concerning with obviously moving into this role as being a lead teacher?
Well, for me personally right now, the biggest concern is being able to do it and teach classes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, not that I shouldn't teach some classes, but just being able to balance that stuff right now is difficult. One of the concerns aside from that is once we have those observations, and when I observe somebody, I know a lot of the teachers, even just the one observation I did, but others, they don't feel like it's just an observation. It's like, I'm not here, this is not about me and your job performance per se. This is an observation that one teacher to another teacher to help you with stuff that you're doing in your
For
room,
personal growth. Yeah.
so that you can keep doing what you do and do it even better. And I think that it's difficult to get past that mindset. It's not a new mindset. I've talked to a lot of teachers since I've worked here that have felt that way anytime we did any kind of observations that weren't formal. This is for your right, for your job observation. A difference between an evaluation and an observation is that I'm there and we're doing those observations for that personal growth, for that benefit, for that helping, as opposed to
Here's an evaluation that.
right,
Yeah.
right. And I think that it'll take a while. And one of the things that was mentioned by Donnie's wife when we were talking last week
Yeah.
was the more frequently those are done, the less that feeling is going to be. Is that
The stress.
correct?
Yeah.
Correct.
And you see more of the growth piece that we've been talking about. And
Correct.
then kind of pours into some of our goals with curriculum building and things of that nature
Yes.
for our PDs and everything else.
Yes, it'll
Yep.
feel less like an evaluation and more like somebody is in here to help me, or maybe not even, by help it could mean this: hey, that was probably the best lesson I've ever seen you teach, and yeah, that was really good. But, you know, I think that too frequently our fellow teachers think that it's going to be bad,
Mhm.
because the feeling is that it's an evaluation, not an observation. And so, yeah, I think for us, the more of those that we get done, and you know, like folks that feel uncomfortable about that. I'm totally comfortable with them coming and observing my classroom because I don't do class the way they do. They don't do class the way I do. But the observation of how it goes, whether it's good, bad, or ugly, I've had all three of those today.
Yeah.
My class period, I had the good, the bad, and the ugly today. And for them to see that, you know, because they're operating from a different perspective on how they do their class than I am in some aspects, and some aspects won't be different. So that I think that that one thing is if we can communicate, one, these are observations for our professional growth.
Yeah.
Two, it's not evaluation for your job. It's a
Personal development.
right, personal development. Three, I'm open to you coming and observing me and providing me feedback too. I think that will make it a less daunting
Mhm.
scenario.
More of us working together.
Correct.
And yeah, I mean, that kind of tied into what I was looking at for a couple of my next questions with how do the goals help develop others meet our school and our state standards,
Mhm.
and feeling more comfortable in that aspect of working together and meeting state standards and making sure that we're building strong curriculum within our classroom. I can see that really happening. With more time, obviously, as
Sure.
one of the concerns,
Mhm.
getting you more time to be that lead teacher instead of just the teacher role. So I hear what you're saying with that. What are the tools that with being that lead teacher that you think you're going to be able to bring to the table to help us
Sure.
reach some of those goals?
Some of the tools that I bring to the table, patience. I'm a patient person. Sometimes it can be perceived as lackadaisical. Patience in regard to helping teachers see things. Patience in like sometimes when we do, one of the things that I think for me I had to work, even though I perceive myself patient, one of the things I had to work on in just recent times was some of the things we're doing for PD, right?
Mhm.
The writing stuff and the
Yeah.
readings and those. I found myself having to self-talk and say, okay, we did one, it was less than stellar, we're gonna do another one. And then after the second one, it was less than stellar, but it was a little more tolerable than the first one, let's do another one. I think that kind of patience to be able to look at it and go, okay, it's a good thing, it will eventually be a useful good thing. Right now, we're still trying to figure out how to, because I feel,
Build it.
right, I feel like when we do some of those things, specifically PD, that are to benefit us, if we do them a time or two, and then we move on to something else, and either we shelve them because it didn't go well and it didn't feel like we made any progress with it, or we just shelve it because we've got another thing to do on the plate, that kind of stuff can get lost and you don't get back to how can this be beneficial to our kids? You know, because example in science, those kids don't think about how writing, communication art form is beneficial because their brains are conditioned to think, well, in our science class, what we're going to do is we're going to fill in some blanks, we're going to multiple choice, we're going to do some simple regurgitation of stuff, rather than once I've wrapped my mind around some concepts, I need to be able to explain not just the what, but the how and the why, and the how does that apply to something else.
Yep.
And that takes
Patience.
communication, that takes patience for them to be able to do that, because it isn't just a skill related to my classroom. It probably is even a skill that may be perceived as secondary in my classroom, but it's a skill that all of us have to use for the rest of our lives in everything we do.
Yeah.
You have to communicate, you have to be able to communicate thoughts reasonably, whether it's to make a proposal to your boss to do something new in your company,
Yeah.
or if you're gonna own your own business, to go into a bank and hand them your proposal for your business and say, this is what I'd like to do, I'd like a business loan, this is, you know, that, I think our kids, again, because they're kids and not adults like we are, they don't see the transference of good communication to other things.
Yeah.
Good communication in science is good communication in English, is good communication on your dorm,
Yeah.
is good communication to a future employer. It's all the same if you're working on being able to clearly transmit your ideas from you to somebody else.
Yeah.
I think that's why, for that particular thing, it was easier for me to be patient, or to talk myself into being patient, because it has a benefit far beyond, can a kid tell me about meiosis or mitosis or any scientific function? Can they adequately leave us and communicate to people?
And and that's, you know, I absolutely see that as a good tool to have, especially with our young teachers. Sometimes they come out and it's that aha moment of, this is really what teaching is about, and they need to learn how to take a little time, slow it down, and having patience with them so that it's not expecting them to have everything perfect, you know, coming out of the gate year one. And I think that's an important
Much
tool
like
to
we do
have.
with our students.
Yeah, it's a very important tool to have to be able to help develop and keep our people on the right track with developing and helping them grow. What would be some of the plans? You know, we're talking about growing people. We're talking about becoming more of a lead teacher. What would be some ways to develop that goal of being that ultimate lead teacher, and then on top of that, areas of professional development that could be implemented to help you out reach those goals?
Well, plan to develop the goals of the teachers. I would personally like to be able to, here's some of what I have done. One of the things that I've done is going to their dorms on Tuesdays when we have team meetings to see how because that's a vital part of who we are here and how we survive here, is how we relate to the rest of our coworkers here in the academy. Going to their team meetings, sitting in on those, mostly as an observer, less of a participant, and then being able to use those as points of contact for discussions with fellow teachers. That's one aspect that I've been working on, because, as we've said, there are so many different parts of what we do here, that is a big three part, so to speak, right? How we work with our program side of what we do here.
Yep.
So that's one of the aspects. Working with our teachers here, like you said, in our PD sessions, so that we don't just look at PD as something that we talked about that Wednesday.
That's something that we actually utilize throughout our.
Correct.
Yep.
Yes, something that's applicable more than, hey, here's a nice idea to maybe consider doing, and not a forced, you must do this, but for the betterment of what we do here, here's a way of doing something that can help all of us do what we do better. I think that if we can, and I can, help teachers understand how to relate as best they can to the program side of what we do and the education side of what we do, rather than one or the other. That will help a lot with going back to the longevity thing. It's usually one of those two aspects that is the burnout factor. Either they're doing super well in the dorm, struggling over here, to super well over here, struggling over there. Sometimes it's struggling in both, and in which case it's both of those parts are needed to be able to help that teacher survive. How long? I think that before we start again with our fall semester in August, it's March, April, May, June, July, 4 months. In the next 4 months, we can make some reasonable progress at the teachers that are staying, and we know are staying next fall, would probably be the group that I would focus on the most.
Invest the time into.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that I'm ignoring my coworkers that are taking different jobs, but I want them to be as good at what they do wherever that is as I would want them to be here. But my focus would be different in regard to that than working with the teachers that I know are staying here, because summer can be one of two things. It can be a way to do those classes that can be a little bit more rewarding, isn't a good term, relaxed. It can also be a time to totally burn out before summer's over. I want to help our teachers get through that 4-month time period so that when fall starts again, we're more on the yay, we're ready for fall to start.
Better prepared.
Not, oh crap, it's August and we just got done with a long summer. And that takes, I've been both sides of that coin in the time that I've worked here. And I can tell you that fall goes a lot better when we got through the summer and we're ready to do fall, rather than we just survived summer and now we have to do fall again. Two totally different mindsets there.
Okay, perfect. So what I'm hearing is one of the big things is going to be, for me, is getting you more time so that you can get more observations, be able to work with teachers, and help develop them, especially over the summer, so that we can really work on our teacher retention, and that by the time we get to the fall, that we have a positive outlook moving into the fall, into winter, and so on. And then one of the things that I know you mentioned to me before we started was one of the things that you're taking a leadership class.
Yep, I
currently taking one of those.
Yep, started today.
That will also be something, information from them, continue personal development throughout the time, taking those classes, and continuing to look to do things of that nature so that we can continue to develop you as that lead teacher. And we'll continue to, hopefully by next year, get some more classes, and possibly even this evaluation class.
I'm on hold for that one. I
Perfect.
already tried to sign up for it and it was,
Filled up.
all of them were filled, so they put me on the hold list.
Well then, by this time next year, we should be able to get you in there and get that taken care of. So we got a plan.
Real quickly, another focus for the summer, the new teachers that we've currently hired, because summer is so vastly different than what we do the rest of the year, we'll need some special focus for those folks, because they're gonna jump into our summer, what we do, and then we're gonna turn around in a few months, ask them, require them to do things in a much different manner than, in regard to classroom.
Mm.
You know, we'll go from the block scheduling back to 6 periods a day,
Yep.
all those kind of things that it'll be
Being able to prep and get them accustomed to
right.
the change.
It'll be a switch, a new switch over for them. So that would be something for us to keep in mind. Is
Change
that,
of class times.
yeah, the new teachers are going to be. I mean, you know, we've got 2 new teachers now,
Yeah.
and they're going to in the next 9 weeks get as used to what we do as they can, and then we're gonna go, hey, it's summertime, let's do this whole other thing, you know, and which isn't necessarily bad, but you know, if I'm a new teacher, when I started here, that wasn't how we did it. We just re-rolled some basically trimesters, but I think that this way is better. But for a new person, it can seem odd.
A little overwhelming.
Yeah. To make 2 new transitions in a
it's
small
making-
period of time.
Yeah. So being able to get out and take care of our new people as they're learning and they're developing themselves. I like that. All right. I think we got a good plan in place, and
All right.
we'll call it good.
Good stuff.
Thank you.
You're welcome.